in practice.
Okay, let's begin today's session. And once in a week, it's so sad. Once in a week, only we are getting chance to meet, right? And
Yeah,
I know that you have already forgot the lesson that I have taught in the previous week because the last Tuesday only we met. Huh?
yeah.
You forgot the lessons?
No,
No.
yeah.
Tell me what we have studied in the previous class. Who can say?
Timeline.
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 Okay. Timeline.
Timeline.
Okay, good.
Timeline.
Then, who can say what's a timeline? What's a timeline? Who will say the answer?
Timeline is correct order of the event. Order of the
It's a
event.
drawing, yeah, it's a drawing.
Event.
Then,
Order
Event.
that show order of events.
Event.
a timeline is a drawing that shows the order of events that took place in the past. Okay. Any doubt regarding this timeline, children? Because the
No, ma'am.
last class, the whole class, we were discussing about a timeline. And today we are planning to learn something else. Are you
What?
ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here I'm going to ask some questions to you. Okay, one by one. Not everybody together. Ready?
Yes.
I think I can ask the question to Rishit. Please unmute. Rishit, please unmute. Okay. Rishit, can you tell me the word history comes from the Greek word?
Historia.
Wow, excellent. Then, what's the meaning of historia? What's the meaning? What's the meaning of the word? Who can tell me what's the meaning of the word
Ma'am
historia?
Janita.
Yeah, Janita. Sure.
A story.
A story. Very good, very good. So let us move to today's topic. Now,
Okay, ma'am.
everybody, I want my cute bubblies to come close to the camera. Come. Come close to the camera. Can I have a touch?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Come. Close. Then we can start the new topic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So today we are going to learn how do we learn history. We all know that history is the study of past. To learn history in detail, we need to know more about the sources of history. To learn history in detail, we need to know different sources we need. Am I right? Actually, history is the study of past. If
Yes.
you want to study
Yeah,
the
ma'am.
past, we need some sources, some materials we need. Am I right? It can be a story, it can be some songs and poems that people remember, and there are some sources, means story books, letters, and the travel stories written in the past. And there are some archaeological materials like some famous buildings and tools, clothes, jewelries, and other such materials. We need some sources, okay? We need a lot of sources to know, to learn more about history, okay? There are, so just we can classify into three. We can divide into three different sources of history. The first classification, that is oral sources of history. Oral sources. Then written sources, the second category. Then third one, archaeological sources. It's very difficult to pronounce. This is the first time you are hearing archaeology. It's very difficult to pronounce. Can everybody please repeat archaeological sources? Come on.
Archaeological
Archaeological sources.
sources.
Archaeological sources. Archaeological sources.
Okay.
Okay, so today we are going to learn how do we learn about history? How do we learn about history? Because in the previous class we have already studied about what is history, what is timeline, and today we have to learn What are the different materials help us to learn the past? Help us to
Past.
know the
Learn
past.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Now, please stand up. I can see some dull faces. Please stand up. Hands up. Hands down. Hands up. Hands down. Then sit down. Sit. Okay. Fold your hands and sit straight. I can see that Abel Rinson is he's not sitting properly. Abel Rinson, adjust your camera and sit straight in the class. Yeah. Now you are okay. Now you are okay. Now the next person. Okay. Sit straight. Fold your hands.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Oh, it's already good afternoon, baby. Okay, now only she joined the session. Okay, we are learning sources of history, the oral sources, the written sources, archaeological sources, isn't it? And do you know what all are oral sources? Huh? Stories, songs, poems that people remember. That people remember. Okay. Palace, do you know? That is Tripunitara Hill Palace. Ah,
Wow.
okay. After this corona, you can ask your parents. Okay, better. Mom, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubt? Any doubt regarding this?
Ma'am.
No,
No.
Any
ma'am.
doubt regarding this?
No.
No.
No, ma'am.
Now, I hope everybody understood what is oral sources of history, what is written sources of history, and what is archaeological sources of history. Okay, then
Okay,
tell
ma'am.
me. Okay, tell me what is oral sources of history. Oral sources, poems,
Poems and songs.
stories,
Stories.
people remember.
People remember.
What all are oral sources of history? Songs,
Songs,
poems,
poems,
M.
and stories.
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 People
People
remember.
Remember.
Okay. Now, what all are written sources? Letter,
Letters,
plays,
Stories.
even stories
and stories
written in the past. Written.
written in the past.
In the past.
Then, what is
Written in the past.
archaeological sources of history?
Old buildings,
Buildings, schools, clothes,
clothes,
jewelry.
Jewelry.
Is it
Old
clear?
jewelry.
Can you mute your device, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Come on, fast, fast. Mute your device. Fast, fast, fast. And we are going to explain the next important thing in this lesson. Yes, my children are okay. Now, the next point, why, what is the need to study history? Listen, different people study history for different reasons. Different people study history for different reasons. Do you know a doctor studies history? For what purpose a doctor studies history? To understand. To understand different diseases and the treatments of the past. Why do a doctor need to study history? To understand different diseases and the treatments for the past. Is that clear? Different people have to study history. A doctor has to study about history. An architect has to study about history. A journalist have to study about history. For what purpose a journalist need to study history? He can learn. Okay, to understand the present events better, in a better way. Why do a journalist need to study history? To understand the present events better, in a better way. Clear? Why do a journalist need to study history? To understand the present events better.
To understand. To understand. Lesson. To
Understand
understand.
present events
Lesson.
better.
Better.
Now, an architect. Why do you think an architect need to study about history? Why he has to learn about history? Any guess?
Construct.
Yeah, to construct buildings, he has to know about what all materials that used in the past. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes,
Which
ma'am.
materials are strong and which are weak? This help them make new buildings better. New buildings better.
Better.
An architect also need to study history. For what purpose? Because he has to know the what all materials that good. Okay. See, listen. Can you list out some materials for making buildings, for constructing buildings? Can you list out some items? Anybody? For constructing buildings, bricks, stone. Ah, come on.
Sand.
Sand.
Wood.
Yeah. Cement, wood,
Cement. Wood. Cement.
some iron rods,
Bricks. Iron blocks.
iron rods. Okay.
Bricks. Blocks. Man.
Okay, okay. Enough. Okay, mute your device. That's enough. That, that's enough. Mute your devices, everybody. So listen, children. The different people study history for different reasons. Different people study history for different reasons. A doctor studies history to know about different diseases and the treatment for the past. And an architect has to know about the building, the materials, what is the cost, and how it is strong or it is weak. Okay. And a journalist has to study history to understand the present events more better, in a better way. Is it clear?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
today we learned about sources of history and different people need to learn history. A doctor, for what purpose a doctor need to learn history? An architect, why? For what purpose an architect need to learn history? And a journalist. Is that clear to you?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Parvana, can you tell me for what purpose a doctor need to study history? Huh? Who can say a doctor need to study, understand the different diseases and the treatment of the past? Okay, Rida, unmute and say
To
understand
understand the diseases and
the diseases
treatments for
and treatment for the past. Okay. Then who can say for what purpose a journalist need to study history? To know the things.
present events better.
Who is that? Present events better? Roshid Binoy. Wow. Excellent. Give a good clap to Rida and Roshid. Okay, to know the present events better. Then for what purpose an architect need to learn history? Is to know constructing buildings and materials used in the past. Which material is good and which material is strong and which one is weak. If the material is weak, you don't want to select that.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
And which the material is apt for this particular building and which cement here I can use. So that for that purpose, he has to learn the history. Is
History.
it clear?
Yeah.
Shall,
Yes.
shall we do that workbook exercises?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Now
Yes,
everybody
ma'am.
stand up. Anna Mary, what are you doing? Anna Mary, what are you doing? Stand up. Hands up. Hands up. Clap your hands.
I'm stand up.
Clap your hands. Okay. Now, let me ask some questions to you.
Yes.
Nora, please unmute and say, what are the different sources of history? The three different sources of history. Ah, just now today we learned.
Um.
Oh, you don't know? Who can tell me the three different sources of history? The different sources of history. Who is ready to say? Who is ready to say? The three sources of history. Janita, can you? Okay, Avandiga, tell me. Unmute and speak.
Oral source,
Very good.
written sources,
Written sources and
archaeological sources.
archaeological sources. Give a good clap to these Avandiga and Anamika. Everybody clap for these children. Now, who is going to say the three important sources of history? Who is ready to say the sources of history? What are the three important sources of history? We can classify into, okay, Roshid, tell me. We can classify the sources of history into three. Yeah, what are they? Oral sources, oral sources, written sources, archaeological sources. Say, tell me, baby. Archaeological sources.
Archaeology sources.
Archaeological. And who is the next person? Wanted to say the answer. Okay, Pranav Vishnu. Okay, Pranav. Unmute and speak.
Oral sources.
Very good.
Written sources.
Very good.
Archaeological sources.
Thank you. Thank you. Then, who's the next person? Okay, Rex. Rex. Unmute and say. What are the three important sources of history? Rex. Where is Rex?
Sources.
Oral sources. Yeah.
Sources.
Written sources.
Sources.
Ah,
Sources.
archaeological sources. Thank you. Thank you. Then, who's the next one? Okay, Agnes Wilson. Okay, Agnes, unmute and speak.
Oral sources.
Oral sources.
Written sources.
Written sources.
Archaeology sources.
Archaeological sources. Archaeological sources. Then, who's the next one? Who? Devamitra. Devamitra, tell me. Emmanuel, what are you doing? Devamitra, say the answer. Oral sources.
Oral sources.
Ah, written sources.
Written sources.
Ah.
Archaeology sources.
Okay, thank you, baby. Thank you. Thank you. Now, ma'am is going to share the screen.
Oh,
Now,
okay,
everybody. Okay. Oh, everybody, take out your workbook. Take out your workbook.
Part 1. Part 1.
Part 1. Part 1.
Part 1. Part 1.
Okay.
And we have to write this book.
Yes.
Which page?
I don't know the page number because I don't have your workbook with me. See, take the lesson. What is history? What is history? The same page number in their textbook also.
Yes, ma'am.
First page it's right.
Yes, ma'am. First page.
Okay, number 1.
What is history? Is the
Number 1.
heading. Ma'am, the heading is what is the history?
Who's talking? Please mute your device, everybody.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. Some sound is coming.
Parvana is calling you, ma'am.
What happened, Parvana?
Ma'am, workbook 1 or 2?
Workbook part 1. And take the lesson, what is history? Number 1. First question. What is drawn to mark events in the order in which they took place? Lifeline, timeline, number line, future.
Line.
What's the answer?
Timeline.
Timeline. Are you sure?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Then option B. Right.
Yeah.
Option B.
Yes, ma'am. Finish.
The next question. Which of the following is not a source of history? Oral source, written source, archaeological source, water source.
Water source. Option D.
Option D.
D. Water source.
Option D. Number 3. The past comes before now. Before now.
Now.
Someone's parent is talking. Number 4. On a timeline, the dash event is on the left hand side. On a timeline, which event? The first event on the left side or the latest event on the left side? We mark on a timeline the first event. Where should we mark the first event? Left side of the timeline or right side of the timeline? The first event we mark on the left side or right side? Tell me. Left side. Okay. The latest event we mark on the
Right side.
right side. Okay. So here is the question. On a timeline, the dash event is on the left hand side. So we can write first.
Right.
Very short answer question. Which language does the word history come from?
History from the past.
No, baby. The word history comes from the dash word.
Ma'am, Greek word.
Greek word. Write the spelling. G-R-E-E-K.
Greek.
Give one example of oral sources of history. Oral sources of history. One example. Who can say? Oral source. You can write stories. You can write poems and songs. Okay. Write stories or
Sorry. Okay.
which one you like, you can write. Only one you need to write. Only one example. I think we can discuss the next questions in the next class. Give 2 examples of archaeological sources of history. 2 examples.
Ma'am,
Rida unmute and say.
yes, ma'am.
Archaeological sources of history. 2
And all
examples.
the tools.
Tools, clothes. Okay. Number 7. Tools, clothes.
Tools.
Tools, clothes.
Clothes.
Tools, clothes.
Yes.
Have you completed, dear children?
Yes, ma'am. Completed.
Have you understood today's topic that we have studied?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any doubt? Seraphin, Devamitra, then Niranjan, Rashid,
Yes, ma'am.
Anunaya. Shall we move to the next question, children? Next
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
True or false? Right? True or false? Okay. Everyone studies history for the same reason.
No.
Isn't it? No. False.
False.
Okay. Number 8. You can write false. Number 9. Oral sources of history are used to learn languages.
True.
True. Number 10. We need to study history to know why events happened in the past.
True.
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 Number 11. So we can wind up the session. History cannot help us learn about the changes in the world. False.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Have you completed, children?
Ma'am,
Yes,
finish,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Okay. Let's wind up the session.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye bye. Love you all.
Love
Take
you, ma'am.
care.
Okay,
We can
ma'am.
meet after 1 week, that next Tuesday. Till then, take care. Bye bye.
Take care, ma'am. Bye bye.
And you have to read the textbook well. Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
ma'am.
Love you all.
Page.
Bye.